IVM.
Hello and welcome to the Habit Coach podcast. I am Ashton Doctor, your habit coach. And with us today for a second time, we have Dr. Roma Kumar. If you haven't heard the first episode, please go listen to it because we were discussing about mental health and all the taboo around mental health, all the stigma around mental health. And why are people not looking out and seeking for it, even though they feel the need for it? So today we're going to be battling another very common, misconception or widely used word, which is anxiety and depression. And I'm so happy to deep dive into this because this is something that we speak about or hear about so often or just use as a catch-all phrase. So it is important for us to learn about these two words and break them up and understand each of them from a scientific point of view. So Dr. Roma, welcome back to the Habit Coach podcast.
Hello, Ashton. Glad to be back here again.
Superb. Dr. Roma, let's jump straight into this. Anxiety and depression, right? These are very, very, serious thoughts that are now being used around saying, if somebody is not able to express what they're feeling, anxiety or depression. Let's understand each of these. Which one would you feel is the best place to start, anxiety or depression?
I think let's begin with anxiety.
Okay, lovely. So, doctor, what is anxiety?
Yeah, to put it simply, anxiety is a very normal and often a healthy emotion, not an unhealthy emotion, It's like when you're going to give in an exam, you're anxious. But that anxiety is normal anxiety that you're able to perform better with that kind of anxiety. However, when a person regularly feels disproportionate levels of anxiety, it might become like a medical disorder. But until then, normal anxiety, you and me, all of us face, And when you have excessive anxiety, it leads to a lot of nervousness, fear, apprehension, worry, agony, all of that comes in as soon as you talk about anxiety. And this also this also makes the person go through different kinds of emotions and how they behave. And it's giving a lot of physical symptoms also. It's not just an emotional symptom, but a physical symptom is also very oftenly seen. And mild anxiety might be sometimes very vague and unsettling, whereas severe anxiety can sometimes be very seriously hampering your day-to-day life. So that is in a nutshell what people need to know about what anxiety is all about.
So there is a scale of mild, good anxiety to something that is, a problem that we need to deal with. What would those, what is it that the person would feel like through that scale? So mild anxiety or good anxiety would feel like what? In serious or serious, how would that be?
So if it's a mild anxiety, you're not actually getting hampered. You can do your daily life chores, you're functioning, you're able to do your work, you're able to study, you're able to concentrate. It's not hampering you. There's little anxiety. That's normal. But when that anxiety goes beyond a certain point, it's potentially harmful. It's giving you worrying triggers all the time. That means you are unable to perform better. That means you're not able to probably study, not concentrate, not work better. You are just panicking and your heartbeat is racing. So you have insomnia. You have all kinds of things when it's going to a harmful effect of that anxiety is happening.
Okay. Because like you said, that mild anxiety or that the initial good anxiety is important because it actually improves your performance.
So what I was wanting to tell you is also that anxiety, the danger that happens is that there's rush of adrenaline. As soon as this anxious behavior comes in or that anxious thought comes in, which is the hormone, of course, adrenaline, which is a chemical messenger in the brain, which in turn triggers these anxious reactions in a process called either you fight that anxiety or you run away from that anxiety. So the fight or the flight response is there when there's anxiety happening. And this prepares us to physically confront it or run away from any potential threat that is going to take place.
Correct. And when you're going through that anxiety, is there something that a person can do to start lowering it?
Yes. So when these symptoms happen, the symptom is like you're restless, you're feeling of being on the edge. You're just on the edge all the time. You have uncontrollable feelings of worrying. You're just constantly worrying. Increased irritability is there, Like I said, there's concentration difficulties, there is sleep difficulties, such as falling asleep or staying asleep. So you keep getting up from that sleep. Or, you have generalized anxiety in all forms of your behavior or all forms of activities you do, you have major anxiety happening. And when you get that anxious behavior, you could probably also be panicking. There's a brief or a sudden attack of intense terror, apprehension that something really bad is going to happen. So I usually suggest the person that do not wait for that moment to happen. Then it's really extreme. Get up wherever you're sitting, move away from that place, break the pattern, because anxiety works in a cyclic manner. Break that pattern, get up, have a glass of water, sip on the water, move away from that situation, do some deep breathing, just focus on something else. It will reduce immediately. The impact will reduce, right? That's the immediate thing that one needs to do.
Okay, lovely. And you spoke about a pattern. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? What do you mean by a pattern?
It's the anxiety cycle that I'm talking about. Anxiety is well known to be in a cyclic manner. That anxiety comes, it goes, and then comes back again. It's known as the vicious cycle of anxiety. It's like worrying about some potential threat. You're trying to cope with a future event that you think will be negative. And you do this by paying more attention to possible signs of any potential threat that is going to be there and looking internally to see whether you will be able to cope with it or not. So you're creating that threat in your mind. It's a vicious cycle. Anxiety, increased scanning of danger, the physical symptoms. You start paying attention to those physical symptoms. You escape. That means you're avoiding that anxiety. There's short-term relief because you run away from that situation. There's short-term temporary relief. But there's long-term, which is there, increase in physical symptoms happening. You get more worry, you start losing confidence, and then you come back to anxiety. So it's a vicious cycle.
The vicious cycle. What are things in your opinion that people typically get anxious about? Like, what are the top 3 things that you notice people get anxious about? Like, is exam anxiety a thing, or what kind of anxiety do people face?
Yeah, exam anxiety or performance anxiety. That means you're giving a presentation, there's anxiety. You are exam anxiety. You are having a sexual act, there's performance anxiety. So the anxiety can come in various forms. Now, these are the biggest areas that one needs to talk about. Or anxiety is happening when you are fearing loss going to happen. You're anxious, you're fearing. Or there's already, like the COVID has happened, there's uncertainty. There's absolute uncertainty. So anxiety is coming in larger forms and it's staying for a longer period of time.
And doctor, is there also a free-floating anxiety where there's no trigger that you can think of, but you're just generally feeling anxious all the time?
Yeah, so that's generalized anxiety.
Generalized anxiety.
Generalized.
And how do you deal with that? Because I've noticed that is scarier for people because they don't know what they are anxious about. And they're just feeling it as a bodily symptom.
Yes. So we'll be focusing on the symptom that is being created. And that symptom we'll try and reduce for that person by helping them understand that symptom is happening, why that symptom is happening, and how to overcome that symptom. So we'll reverse that vicious cycle of anxiety. We'll help them confront the fear situation, without the aid of any safety behaviors, So we allow that person to confront it in some manner. What is going to happen? Then there's a little short term that the person starts feeling, I am just getting anxious. There was no reason for me to get anxious. So we pick up on small things. That means we don't do any long jumps, high jumps. And I usually say we don't do any pole vaults. We take baby steps towards understanding how this behavior is affecting us.
Lovely, lovely. When I think about anxiety and people use the word anxiety as a catch-all phrase, what are the things that they sometimes misinterpret as anxiety and say, I'm having an anxiety attack? Oh, I'm full of anxiety.
So I think sometimes it becomes like a fad.
Correct.
If they see some peer group also going through it and getting help and maybe getting some help in the boards, which is the examination boards, or some other relief in some form or the other. So they mimic that anxiety, which is not actual anxiety. So that's why it's important to see the therapist, because that therapist will be able to come to know whether he or she is mimicking anxiety. What is it that is another form of worry for that person and it's not really anxiety? What is the person running away from?
I love this. What is the person running away from? What is the fear that they've created in their mind that they need that, that feeling of, like you just said, that anxiety, that flight or flight response has been induced in the person. And are there a different set of mental techniques to reduce anxiety and a separate kind of physical techniques to reduce anxiety?
Well, not really. We use combination of methods to work on the anxiety. A lot of cognitive behavior therapy is used for that. Sometimes combination of some therapies is used to understand some phobias or generalized anxiety, something, social anxiety is there. There's, obsessive compulsive disorder. We've all heard of OCD, he's very repetitive or very ritualistic in his behavior. There's post-traumatic stress disorder. All of it comes in this major anxiety disorder form.
Okay, so these are all subsets of anxiety. So OCD is a subset of anxiety. All right, interesting. So if you're facing any of these issues, definitely, seek out help and understand what is going on at that point of time. Love it. Doctor, anything else about anxiety that you would want us to talk about?
So I would like to talk about what is everyday anxiety and what is an anxiety disorder. So that way people will be able to understand, or differentiate. So in everyday anxiety, what happens? You worry about things like paying bills, finding a job for yourself, a romantic breakup, or other important events. That's everyday anxiety. But an anxiety disorder will be constant and unsubstantiated worry that causes significant distress. We're really very, very distressed, and it interferes with your daily functioning. So that's a very big difference. All of us worry about certain things, So they can, in a normal anxiety, which is an everyday anxiety, you could probably be embarrassed about something, or you can be self-conscious about something and feel a little uncomfortable in an awkward social situation. But when there's a disorder, you start avoiding those social situations for fear of being judged, embarrassed, humiliated. So that becomes like a disorder then. There's a big difference there. So I hope you're understanding what I'm trying to say.
The disorder is coming in the way of your living a full life, right?
Yes.
The disorder is coming in the way of you. It could also be affecting your friends and family around you.
Yes.
So when it starts affecting your life, it becomes a disorder. When it does not affect your life, but it comes and goes because of life events, like you said, it is not at that stage at all. It is a milder form that we all go through.
Excellent, Ashton. You just said it very rightly.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So, Dr. Roma, this was one big topic that we were talking about, anxiety. But before we get on to talking about depression, let's take a quick break and come back.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. If you aren't following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Would like to thank the sponsors on the network this week, CED. We really do appreciate your support. We have a new show on the network. It's called The Fighting Goat. And if you love fighting sports, tune in every Wednesday with hosts Arjun and Somesh. They also featured, by the way, on Cyrus Says this week, where the three fitness freaks bonded over their love for TV sports and sports in general. Tune in to This Round Is On Me, where Gauri celebrated her 25th anniversary with Kavita Rajwade, who is my co-founder at the IVM Podcast Network. They give us details about how this show was curated, and they talk about podcasts in general. On The Habit Coach, Ashton highlighted our addiction to screens, how we are glued to either a big laptop screen or a small mobile screen all day. He shared some tips on how to rectify this unhealthy lifestyle. On All Things Policy, Anirudh Kanisetti spoke to Pratik Vakre and Rohan Sheth about the new internet guidelines that were issued by the Government of India recently and their impact on content creators and platforms. On the Filter Coffee podcast, Karthik invited Vivek Ram, who is a celebrated animation artist. They chatted about his stint with animation and starting his own studio called Vanar Sena, bringing to life stories from ancient India and his scriptures with animation as his vehicle. We had Dhanya Rajendran, the editor of the News Minute, on the Note with Maruk Inayat. It was a deep dive into the digital newsroom and the upkeep of truth in a fake news pandemic. And with that, let's get you back to your show.
All right. So, Dr. Roma, we are back. We were talking about anxiety. Let us understand depression. What is depression when we start thinking about it? And how is it often misinterpreted? And what should it be like we should be thinking about?
So, a lot of us use this term very, very loosely, that I am depressed or so-and-so is depressed. That's a medical clinical term. let's not use this very, very loosely, Depression is basically a major depressive disorder, It's a mental illness. And we need to treat that illness. And that illness has to be treated with medication and with therapy. So let's not use the word depression very, very loosely. And the symptoms can be from mild to a severe degree, as we have been talking about symptoms. And this could be feeling sad or having a depressed mood, loss of interest or pleasure. The ones that you used to be happy about, or you were, those activities that you enjoyed at some time, you no longer enjoy those activities. There's a change in appetite, there's weight loss or gain, which is unrelated to dieting. You're dieting, but you're gaining weight. That also can be something which is a change in appetite. Trouble sleeping or sleeping too much, loss of energy, fatigue, increased fatigue. You just don't know why you're getting very, very tired, increase in purposelessness, physical activity. That means inability to sit still in one place. You're pacing, you are hand wringing, doing something or the other with your hands, or there's slow movement of your speech, So there's increased in your purposelessness of physical activity, feeling very worthless or guilty. The person can be having difficulty in thinking, concentrating, or making any decisions. And sometimes there can be persistent thoughts of death and suicide.
Okay. So these are the things that people might be going through that would fall under the bucket of depression. And as you said rightly, it is a...
Yeah. So now the symptoms must last at least 2 weeks.
Okay.
And they must represent a change in your previous level of functioning for a diagnosis of depression.
Correct. It's not a short-term thing. It's not over the weekend I was lying in bed and I didn't want to get out of bed. Right? It is 2 weeks I didn't want to get out of bed. 2 weeks there was a sense of purposelessness, like you said. Yeah. That's when it starts becoming.
Yeah, and there could be some medical conditions also along with it. You could have probably thyroid, you could have a vitamin deficiency, you could have a tumor. I mean, you could have so many other medical conditions which is mimicking some symptoms of depression. So it's important to rule out that medical condition also. So do not use the term depression loosely.
Very, very interesting. So the symptoms might have come from something completely different. There could be a physiological issue that was happening in your body, and the same symptoms of depression are coming out. And would you still call that depression?
Well, if a person who's going through this goes to a psychologist who's trained to pick up these symptoms, will first go in for a medical checkup to rule out any medical issues, and then take up that person for therapy. First we have to rule out the medical conditions.
Okay. And like you said, that if it is classified as depression, there are two aspects to it. One is the talking kind of therapy, and then the second is the medicine kind of therapy. Is that correct?
Yes.
And
so it's not either or.
It is both. And what is the role of these two?
So the psychiatrist will give you medication so that the chemical change that has taken place in your mind and body, that chemical starts getting better. You're probably able to sleep and you're also calming down. The therapy will help you deal with your life issues, everyday issues, how to make that change, how to come back to your normal self, which was an earlier self, how to get more functional. So the medication is going to work on the chemical change. The therapy is going to help you come back to the state where you are happier, where you are able to function and where you're able to do things, where you're feeling responsible and you're able to take decisions.
So the talking part of the therapy is how do you help cope with all these changes that are taking place in life? Correct? And if I understand this, the medicine is just so that you can also start creating that connect or at least start lowering the effect so you can get into starting to make that change. Is that the way to think about it?
Absolutely, because medication is like, that brain chemistry, that is the area that the medication, that usually the medication is not a sedative, So people think that, दवाई दे दिया तो मेरे को सुला देंगे. बहुत heavy दवाई दे दिया, I don't understand what is this heavy dawai. So it's like you have to have that medication because there's a chemical reaction which has taken place in your body that needs treatment. Antidepressants may produce some improvement within the first or 2 weeks of use, yet with full benefit, it might take 3 to 6 months. It's not that Crocin khaya, ek khaya to meri sar dard chalegi. ये depression का दवाई खाया तो इतना लंबा क्यों चल रहा है? So we need to focus. It will take some time.
And you've seen people make a complete recovery from a clinical depression to the way that you would expect somebody to be functioning?
Yes. And that's what I need to tell people. As soon as you see symptoms, go immediately for help. Do not wait for it to become a very huge condition. Then it gets difficult to treat. Second, when you've gone for help, for medication or therapy, do not keep changing doctors and medication. Then it gets equally more difficult to treat the person. So stick on, hang in there. You will get help. Talk to your doctor, talk to your therapist. You will feel better. Do not hesitate. Do not run away from there. And sometimes when the therapist is trying to give you some techniques, you might find that this therapist is assertive. Do not misinterpret that the therapist is being assertive to being rude. Do not think the person is being rude. The therapist is asserting, is telling you what needs to be done.
Yes, beautifully said. Doctor, like we were talking earlier on, depression has become a catch-all phrase for, general purpose feelings. What are some of these feelings that are not depression? I can't go to a doctor just to figure out whether I have it or not. So I'm saying that in my mind, I should go through my own home checklist before I think about reaching out. What would my home checklist be?
So I think I will do some kind of self-help and coping for myself. That means for many of us, we'll do regular exercising, which will help us feel positive and improves our mood, getting enough quality sleep, on a regular basis, eating healthy food, avoiding alcohol or any substance usage, which can also reduce symptoms of depression. So I will do some of those self-help and coping techniques. I might go to my family physician to get some help. But don't delay it further. Like I said, if this is hampering you for a period of time, then you need a psychiatrist or a psychologist. And depression can happen in, you have seasonal depression also, which is called a seasonal affective disorder when there's change in weather. Depression can happen because of after having a baby, it's a peripartum depression that can happen. So depression can happen in many forms. Whenever you feel there's a change which has happened to you or people around you are seeing you behave differently, do not hesitate to go to a doctor for help. And I'm telling you, in all these years, I've seen people improve, come back to life, come back doing things the way they used to do. And they've kept that therapist with them for years together so that they can always connect back to see whether I'm doing fine or not.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Doctor, when people think about depression, do they also get a sense of guilt along with it? How should they deal with these two?
So guilt and depression, guilt can be an emotion, but this depression is an illness, is a disorder. Guilt can be one of the areas that can be there. The therapist will actually help you understand where is this guilt coming from? What has your life journey been where you started feeling so guilty? What are you coping with? What are you having difficulty with in connecting with which people? What does it do to you when somebody behaves or talks in a certain manner? So I will focus on those areas so that I can help you deal with where is this guilt coming from and what is it doing to you?
So the guilt is an aspect of the depression. It's not that the depression or being clinically depressed creates that guilt in you saying that now I'm useless to my family, to this, to that.
No, it can happen like that also, that if you are going through depression and that person is on treatment, the person may feel guilty that I'm not being able to do my responsibilities because I am depressed and I'm not going to work. Yes, it can happen in that manner also, but that the therapist will be able to help you deal with it.
Correct.
Make you also see that you can be cognitively, gainfully, productively occupied so that you do not feel guilty.
And that's actually the most important thing, right? Because when we go through that sense of depression, we don't feel like doing anything.
Yeah.
And because we don't do anything, it starts compounding and becoming worse and worse. Like you said, that we can exercise, we can eat healthy, we can do that. There is no drive. There is no vitality in you to be able to do that.
So that's when we use small steps.
Correct.
Right? Small things, small achievements. And when you have those small achievements, believe me, you feel really good that you've been able to do that.
Absolutely. Doctor, a lot of people right now, especially on Instagram and on social media, are sharing their journeys through depression, right? And talking about it openly. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm glad that they are talking about it and they are okay talking about it. They've healed and they're talking about it, or they are creating some awareness. But some of us are just doing it for getting some attention. And some of us may not be actually in that journey.
And
let's not do that.
And let's not do that, right? Because it is so important to understand that this is a very, very serious health issue, or this is a serious, like you said, medical issue. And we should treat it as such. Let's not mix it up unnecessarily. Let's not do it. If you have, perfect, look for help. But if you don't, look at other ways in which you can probably heal. If you're going through something that is not necessarily, like you said, in the 2 weeks category, what can we do about it at that point of time? Get yourself help. Like we said in the first episode, seek out counseling. You might not need, like you said, medication plus counseling. You might just need the counseling to understand what you're going through right now. Hold that mirror up. See where your life is at right now.
And also don't hesitate from taking medication. दांत के दर्द के लिए दवा लेते हैं ना, पेट खराब होता है तो दवा लेते हैं, सर दर्द होता है तो दवा लेते हैं. तो अगर मेरे मन शांत नहीं है, if I'm not happy, there is a reason I'm not happy. It's not my circumstances that are making me unhappy. There's a journey towards that unhappiness and you might need medication. Correct. So don't hesitate from taking the medication, saying that वो मूवी में सुनना था, उसने कहा था, मेरे दोस्त ने कहा था दवा नहीं खाना. मत सुनिए उनको. आप अपने डॉक्टर को सुनिए. That is what is going to make some effect.
What are the big myths that you've heard about the davas? Let's talk about that, because like you said, it is such a widely spoken about thing. Oh, they'll give me these medicines, like you said, put me to sleep. I'll feel like a zombie. I don't feel like myself. And all those are the kinds of quotes that I've heard from people saying this. What is actually happening to the person when they take the right kind of medication?
So the medication initially might make you feel a little out of place, like you're saying, that may feel that you're tired or you're wanting to sleep all the time. And that's initially because the medication is making some effect on you, or that medication is also helping you calm your nerves first and then move on from there. So the first 2 weeks, you might feel a little different, or maybe 3 weeks, and then start off with your therapies in the first 2. After the 2 weeks or the 3 weeks, you'll start feeling much better because you'll start understanding what the medication is also doing to you. So people think that medications is sort of, we will just go out to sleep or it'll slow down my mind. No, it will not slow down your mind. It will help you move on in life, and the medicine is not going to last you a lifetime. So we have to, get treated for it. It is a slow process, but you will get help, you will get treated, you will feel better. And let me tell you, there are so many of us who are on medications. Nobody can come to know that you're on medication. हम थायराइड की दवा खाते हैं ना, और लंबी पूरी जिंदगी चलती है. हम हाइपरटेंशन की दवा खाते, डायबिटीज की दवा खाते, क्यों खाते हैं? पूरी जिंदगी चलती है. तो अगर ये खा लेंगे कुछ दवा जो लंबी चलेगी, तो क्या प्रॉब्लम है?
Just like the thyroid is a chemical imbalance, this too is a chemical imbalance, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
Right? And lovely. Anything else you want to discuss about depression that, you feel that we need to shine a light on?
Yeah, sometimes people feel very judged and shamed of talking about. I completely understand that. We come from different backgrounds. We come from different socioeconomic backgrounds also. So people do not see the individual who's going through this anxiety or depression. उनको लगता है ऊपरी हवा लग गई है, तो वो बाकी चीजों में they get into the other area, and you lose time on it. Let's not get into that aspect. You may want to do it, but take your medication along with it. The second area, a lot of people are now wanting to use alternative therapies. You can do that. You go ahead with it. It's all about your belief system, but do use your medication and therapy. You can do all of that, but that's the message I want to give. Don't waste too much time, because emotions get unhealthy. Our thoughts can keep changing towards negativity. I might be so angry with everybody around that everything seems bad for me. And then I do self-harm. and I want to take away my life, don't wait for that time, right? Talk. So it's very well researched that a person, when feeling like this, that low, and wants to take away the life, when you're talking to someone, that baggage suddenly becomes less and you don't want to do it. And that's what a therapist does.
Beautifully put. I love this. Thank you so much, doctor, for sharing this with us, enlightening us on these two big aspects, anxiety and depression, because I don't want it to be just something that we randomly talk about. It is a scientific approach to things, and that is the critical thing that we wanted to put across in this podcast today. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Dr. Roma. It was absolutely brilliant. How can people get in touch with you if they want to, consult with you or talk to you a little further?
So I am easily available through my email. That is romakumar, ROMAKUMAR 64@gmail.com, or on my website, which is www.emotionally.in. It's EMOTIONALLY.in. And I'll be very happy to help anybody, talk to anybody who wishes to connect with me. Thank you so much, Ashton. It's been wonderful chatting with you, and I just love chatting with you.
Thank you so much. I love your passion for this field, and I'm so happy you're doing this. Thank you so much.
So start these habits and share with us your progress using the hashtag #TheHabitCoach. If you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to us on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com. You can also follow us on social media. We are at IVM Podcasts on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to reach out to me, I am Ashton Doc on Twitter and Instagram. You can find lots more information on my website, awesome180.com, or check out different content on my YouTube channel called AWESOME180. That's Awesome 180.
Namaskar, dear friends. My name is Ashish Vidyarthi. Life, as you know, is a journey. And you and I, travelers, how can we celebrate this travel? I have a podcast for you, Begin the Journey. I share stories and moments from my life. Do tune in every Monday and Thursday to listen to my podcast on the IVM Podcast website, app, or wherever you get your podcast from. Cheers.
Come learn and experience the ABCDs of being queer with me, Shunetro,
and me, Farhad,
on our show, Gay BCD.
The two of us take you through our stories and experiences of being gay men in the city of Mumbai and have candid
and sometimes downright scandalous
conversations about sexuality, gay culture, and everything in between.
Catch new episodes of Gay BCD every Tuesday on the IVM Podcast website, app, or wherever you get all your podcasts from.